You're listening to the Rebel Connect podcast, powered by Rebel Strength and Performance. Community isn't built by luck. It's built by people who show up every day, take risks, and create real impact. I'm Derek Talish, owner of Rebel Strength and Performance, along with co-host Melissa Jaquinto. We sit down with Rebel members, local business owners, community leaders, and change makers. You'll hear their success stories and the way they're building community and legacy right where you live. Want to stay inspired and connected? Subscribe or follow the show so you never miss an episode. This is Rebel Connect, where local stories become lasting impact. Listeners, welcome to another episode of Rebel Connect. I am your host, Derek Talish, with
Melissa Jaquinto.
And today we have another guest on. We've got Ben Yannis, right? And I'm really excited for this one today. Ben, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Calling in from my mother's house who I'm visiting. It's an unusual environment, but extremely comfortable. So I'm already in a comfortable sort of mood. So I'm excited to be in a comfortable mood and to talk about comfortable subjects with you.
How do you know it's going to be comfortable subjects?
I don't actually. So
I don't know if
we might throw a curveball at you.
I don't know if I can make Ben uncomfortable at this point in time.
That's so true.
But with that said, we go way back, and I'd love to give a little bit of an introduction about him. Ben is my God, he is. I probably met him in 2018. So Ben came to the company Revolution at the time before he rebranded in 2018. And he was in college, and he was looking to, continue to improve upon his lifting experience. And, he did some powerlifting in that kind of time span. And, we really connected then. And he trained with us for the summer. I believe it was for the summer. And then we've never fell out of touch with each other. And he's always kind of been in a lot of what we've done at Rebel in the background. And, we've had such an incredible experience of watching what he's been able to do. And he's somebody who's fallen into the fitness space that originally, I don't think that was the goal. He could tell you better than me, but he fell into the fitness space and, through that, really kind of found a niche in terms of, what he is currently doing, which is a tremendous amount of education in the online fitness space. He's amassed a massive social media following, which to date is over 800,000 people. And he helps a lot of people through that account and what he does. So I'm very excited to officially announce Ben Yannis to the podcast and get to know him a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Derek, thanks for the intro, and I apologize for my mom's dog in the background, who was perfectly timed there. I wanted to just say something right off the bat because it came into my head quickly, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. When I came to what was Revolution in 2018, I don't know if you know this, but I didn't really have the strongest interest in education. Like what I was interested in at the time being, 17, 18 years old, I guess 18 years old, was just, I wanted to be stronger. I wanted to look cool with my American flag lifting belt and my American flag lifting straps. And that was like the beginning and the end of it. And I don't even know if I've told you this before, but you were one of the first people who really got me thinking about thinking really for the first time. And I think there's no better setting to give you a thank you for that, because you were the one who kind of pushed me into really the education space as a whole. You introduced several different people to me who at the time were incredibly good resources who pushed me in really interesting directions. And I think, once you kind of get pulled into something with just a little bit of interest and curiosity, if you have the motivation and if you kind of become possessed by it in a good way, the most important part, and we always talk about this with clients, is like just getting started and just that initial momentum of you pushing me, whether intentionally or not, in that direction. That was really the origin story for me of all the sort of origin stories. So I give you a thank you for that, because that is the most like genuine compliment that I could possibly give someone, is like, you were the person to push me in the direction that I now basically base my life around. So that is true and genuine. and not for the sake of podcast or for the listeners. That's for you, and also just, I guess, for other people to be aware of that, a space like that can provide that kind of trajectory to someone, and it certainly has to me. So that was the first thing that came to mind among others, but I'll let you respond to that if you want.
The first word is humbling, man. It's super humbling, and it's no secret that I'm incredibly proud of you and everything that you've been able to do. You did an in-service for our staff yesterday, and watching you in the middle of the gym that you first came into 7-8 years ago and educate our staff is something that was super powerful. I was super proud of, and it's not something that we take lightly. Being able to help people and impact people in any kind of way is something that we always strive to do. And I think that thank you for sharing that with me, because that's something that I've always strived to do with my professional career. And we have a saying, like particularly with our athletes, is be the coach you always needed, right? And I try to live by that. And I couldn't thank you enough for that compliment, and I couldn't be more proud of everything that you've been able to do, man. But with that said, give us a little bit of a background. You're in college, right? Walk me through the process of kind of like figuring out, okay, turns out this fitness thing might be something that I want to pursue, but how do I want to pursue it?
I was the classic tried to be good at a sport in college but failed person. And Melissa, I believe your husband played lacrosse, correct?
Yeah.
But he also played, I think, the same position that I did. And we actually played against each other in high school. I don't know if you even
Oh, that's so funny.
were
I
aware
don't
of
even
that.
think I knew that.
To my recollection, it was a fairly even match. I think you probably got the best of me. Maybe we can ask him about that later. But nevertheless, going into college, I wanted to play lacrosse. I very quickly realized that I was not good enough to play college lacrosse. And so I wanted to find something that made me feel good about myself in some way, and that just so happened to be lifting weights. I was always kind of into lifting because I played sports since the age of 7, where my father put a helmet on my head and allowed me to bash into other children who were also 7 years old. And so, given that was kind of the context of my upbringing, like I wanted to be someone who could handle the bashing, emotionally and physically, so to speak. So from, the time I was maybe 16, 17, I was always in the weight room. I didn't love the weight room because I was always forced to be there by a coach who also didn't really want to be there. So, when I sort of moved away from sport, and there was this humongous vacuum in my life where I had no physical way to kind of express my capacity to perform, I fell into powerlifting, and you mentioned that. And I fell into a situation basically where I was not only just able to help myself through filling that space in my life, but all of the people around me, all my friends in college, because I wasn't like a super high performer, but I was definitely on average stronger than most of my friends. So all of my friends thought I was like this super awesome, cool, knowledgeable guy who, at the time, I guess on a relative basis I was, but relative to now, I basically knew next to nothing, but I was helping my friends out. And I think that they appreciated that. And that sort of connection, I think, was the sort of second beginning after the one that I had with you, where I recognized that like there was something that could exist between people that could pull them closer together that had nothing to do with them individually. So, much like Derek, the foundation of our relationship was kind of fitness oriented. And that still remains a kind of pinnacle thing in our relationship today. That same relationship brought me closer to 3 other people who are now still some of my closest friends. And so that was always the motivation for me, was to do it for myself and to do it for the people around me. And the more people that I was able to help just for free, the more I realized that it was something that I could eventually be paid to do. Because that's what people started to tell me, is like, hey, you could probably do what you're doing for me, for some kind of money for some stranger who doesn't know you, at least yet. So that was kind of how things were born and the trajectory that things went. And of course, there was development from there, but it all really started with powerlifting, enjoying squat, bench, and deadlift, helping other people do it, and then just kind of allowing that to organically evolve as time went on into other niches and other populations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of segues into kind of our next question, which is what are some of the biggest roadblocks that you have experienced from when you started until now?
You know, for me, I was never someone who struggled with what people call discipline or motivation or any of those things. If anything, I had the opposite problem, which was I had to eventually figure out how to spend less time in the gym and how to develop other parts of my personality and my life. So I can't say that I was ever someone who was not driven in that way, but where I really struggled as a consequence of that was in the world of injury and pain. I was constantly in pain. I was constantly in injury. And that was something that drove me deeper and deeper into education. And eventually, basically what I now do, which is I basically help coaches coach their clients through kind of helping them develop an understanding of biomechanics and physics and anatomy and all those things that contribute to knowing what you're doing in the weight room. So the number one roadblock for me at every point along my lifting journey, and also just in my life because it affected so many other areas of my life, was getting around pain and injury. And that was really I would say the root of what drove me into the education space to begin with, along with just general interest in the topic and how it could help me in other ways in the weight room.
I think that's a really common thing in younger people in the fitness industry is fitness is like your entire being. And that's like an interesting point that no one talks about, how it is your whole personality. Like I've definitely had points where I'm like, but I like lifting weights and I like going for walks and I like doing things that involve movement. And I'm like, wait, but that can't be my whole personality. Like I have to do other things too. That's something that no one really talks about. I think it's more common than you think.
No doubt there. I've definitely been guilty of that at more times than I'd like to admit in my life. Of
Yeah.
Kind of like having this like tunnel vision, like there's only
fitness.
one thing that I enjoy doing is fitness. I'm definitely very far from that, but I think we all go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's actually really helpful to arrive at a point where you start to get really tired and annoyed with having to go to the gym, because at that point you recognize like, oh, this is how 99% of the world feels. This is how all the people who I'm helping feel. And at that point you can actually be equipped to go through that yourself and then through that experience help other people. Whereas like something that I've never understood is why people ask others who are incredibly into fitness, like, how is it that you stay so motivated? And I'm like, dude, I got to be motivated like to rest on, one day of the week. I got to be motivated to rest on 2 days of the week if that's what I need that week. So until I had the experience of being forced like to kind of be sidelined, I never really understood that side of it. And I think that much like all other things in this space, just getting pushed in different directions is so valuable as long as you can kind of step away from it while you're inside of it to recognize the value of that setback.
The importance of experience and perspective, my friend. That's the biggest thing is like, you with that time you gained more perspective, and had the experience that backed it, right? Like to start to feel what, Gen Pop feels, so to speak. And, I'm in it now. Like I am by definition general population.
So old. You're
and
just so
I'm out of the full of grit trainer mode, man. And, people know I sign into sessions. Like I book time for our sessions and I take our product. Like I am a prime example of a Rebel member, right? And if I could take on your area here for a second of Ben's questions is, my thing that interests me so much, and I know that, right away when I say Ben's got 800,000 followers on Instagram, how did you go from the physical training, like, actually training people, to saying, all right, I want to pivot and, do some things online, and then all of a sudden, you became very popular. And you started working with people online, and you started working with trainers online. Walk me through like some of that process and what you did to arrive at the conclusion that where you are now is where, did you always want to be there, or was it an evolution?
Great question. The origin of that really lies in a conversation I had with my brother who, Melissa, I don't know if you have met Dan. Derek, I know you have. But my brother one day, this was during COVID, like for initial stages of COVID, which Derek, you and I have COVID stories. You lending me barbell and plates so that I could continue to live and survive in my own way. So just a shout out to that, to recall that. But one day, my brother Dan said to me, Ben, it kind of seems like much of your life centers around this whole lifting thing. I feel like you should probably share it with other people if you're already if you're already posting on Instagram and all that you're posting are just like pictures of maybe you and your friends. Like, doesn't it seem like it's kind of only part of the picture? Like, isn't lifting in your life a big part of what you do? And don't you want to share that? And up to that point, I had never thought about it that way, which was that, and in retrospect, this was the most helpful bit of accidental advice I could have received around social media, is you want like social media and let's say content creation to be this emergent property of your already existing personality, beliefs, and knowledge. I think a lot of people are thinking about it in the opposite direction now, which is they think to themselves, oh, I want to do social media so that I can achieve X, Y, Z, rather than thinking, how can I basically just express myself in a way that helps other people and in a way that allows them to give me money. So the origin story was basically my brother saying, hey, Ben, this is a part of you, you should share it. And at the time, and probably for several years, honestly, I didn't really know where that was leading, but I just knew that it could be just another iteration of what I was already doing with the people around me in person. I could just reach more people doing it. So that's kind of where it started. And there were many different directions that I was being pulled, but it always just came back to, again, that accidental bit of advice, which was like, hey, Ben, what are you thinking about today? What are you doing today? And what do you want to share? As an example, if my workout was an arm workout that day and I thought of something like, this one little tip on this curl that I just, did could help someone else. That's how it started. And that's kind of how it still is. And at no point did I ever think it was going anywhere other than that, which I think was very helpful. And I think the sort of the longest lever for me was just the fact that I never, much like going to the gym, I never felt like I had to overcome any kind of friction to do that. I never had to try to be someone that I wasn't, and that's what made it sort of sustainable. So over time, I just kind of rinsed and repeated, and eventually, much like the people who were in my life said to me, people online started saying, hey, do you have a product that I could buy? Where can I learn more from you? Do you have available spaces for consultations? So all of that was, again, just this natural emergence, this organic occurrence from what was already my life and what I was able to just turn into, a technological version of my life. And I think a big thing for me was just that, because I was so interested, I just posted every day, and I posted every day for, I don't know, running on like five years straight. A post a day, 2 posts a day, not including other sort of minor things like stories and DMs and those kinds of things. So that has all, I think, been possible just because, it's like waking up and brushing my teeth. It's just what I want to do. And, I have been very, very lucky at several points to have been able to meet people, obviously like you, but also other people who, have platforms who have been able to sort of share my message and grow my account. And I think that's another sort of big part of it, as it is with growing any other kind of product or community service.
And when you think about kind of your journey overall, I know this is hard to do, it's hard to think about all these things, but what are your proudest moments? I think it's so hard to give yourself credit sometimes, but if you had to pick 1 or 2 things that you're proudest of, because you've had quite the journey, what would you say?
Helping get my mom out of back pain. Probably my proudest.
I love that.
2 words that come to mind with you are authentic and consistent, and that answer was just so
authentic and consistent.
Right?
Because who would think that the guy with 800,000 followers on Instagram is going to say his biggest accomplishment is making sure his mom isn't in any pain?
Yeah, but you know
I
what?
love it.
It's everything that you just described from a business perspective is just, you've done something that you've just felt so tremendously authentic about, and you did it consistently. Right, and you're from from a perspective of business plan, you have more thought towards it than you ever have. I know, but at certain points in your development, I've almost been like, I've almost rolled my eyes or become nauseated at how simple some things have been. But that's always how you've approached it, and that's always to the degree that you've wanted to do it. It's always been something that's so pure, right? The educational component has just been so pure and authentic, and that's something that I've always appreciated tremendously about you, and that's who you are. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, especially coming from you. And like I said, I think a lot about the content creation space now and what it's become, and just the education space generally, and really social media generally, is like people are going in the opposite direction, I think, from the direction that it will best serve everyone, which is people are first thinking, how do I grow the account? How do I get the followers? How do I make the money? Rather than just thinking like, what is it that I'm good at and what is it that I like to do? And let me just see if anything can sort of come from that through many iterations of that. People can sniff when at least I think people can sniff out when you are in essence kind of fabricating a story or fabricating a version of yourself to come off a particular way. And that's something that, as both of you probably know very well at this point, can really hinder a client-trainer relationship, a relationship between members of a community, is like people just trying to put on faces in a way that's totally inauthentic and inorganic. Eventually that stuff rears its head, in my experience, and makes everyone worse off. So even if I have to express a side of myself that's a little bit less mature than I would like to, at least I can say that I expressed something that was original to me and not to someone else, or not something that I thought would be cool or appear a certain way to other people.
Have you always had a tremendous sense of self? Have you always been this self-aware?
I think so. My mom used to tell me that she still tells me that I have been the same from day one. Several things that come to mind: my love and passion for Justin Bieber from day one. I was willing to express to my gym bros through all my life, who called me names for it, including Derek. And also, to my friend. Picture a 6th grade dude who plays sports and is the captain of his football team, telling his football teammates that they should listen to Baby by Justin Bieber because it's a great song. You can imagine the amount of flack that one would receive from that kind of communication. So I think that's probably a good example in terms of answering your question. So I would say yes, but the self-aware part probably developed a bit later than I would have liked. Probably at some point, really in high school at some point.
Well, that's certainly earlier than many people. Mm-hmm. Ben, we're running out of time here. I'd love to get you through a little bit of a lightning round, some fun, lighthearted questions here, okay. And I know you'll be ready for it. I got a heavy one at the end, though. Okay. So, first one. All right. Growing up in the area, you went to school at MKA. What's your favorite? Throw you back here. Favorite local spot for some food?
Enzo's Pizza for sure.
Ooh, good one. Very nice. Next one. Got a book or podcast that you're recommending right now to people that you're enjoying?
How to Win Any Argument by Mehdi Hasan. Very, very good book on the art of debate and communication.
Love it. What's something that people incorrectly assume about you or get wrong sometimes?
They assume that I'm a douchebag.
Fair enough. Okay.
There you go.
And then finally, last one. Advice for your younger self, okay? You can go back in time. Let's give you... I'm going to give you a time frame. Give me 10 years ago. Advice to Ben 10 years ago. What would it be?
Thinking in black and white terms is almost never helpful. And what that would mean practically for me at the time would be to always look for the other side of the coin in every scenario, and to always try to identify what the trade-offs of every decision would be, rather than assuming that there was ever a clear right or wrong answer to any question. That would be the first thing. The second thing would be that in order to deal with that, because that perspective can kind of lead to a certain kind of chaos, the most important thing in development, learning, I think just growing in life, is to take shots on goal and to receive feedback from your having taken a shot. I think this concept of like, don't feel failure, don't fear failure. Like, what does that mean? I just think failure as a concept is, it's not helpful as a framework. I like to think of it more as like everything is kind of learning. So I would say number one, look for the trade-offs. Don't look for the rights or the wrongs. And then number two, try to see everything as an opportunity to advance. And the way that you do that is by taking shots on goal and just kind of forgetting about the concept of failure as something that you actually have to accept and operate sort of as a framework within.
Excellent. Ben Giannis, everybody, a local young man doing incredible things. Keep an eye out for this one as he continues down his incredible and fun path. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today, and would love to have you back sometime soon.
Absolutely, Derek. Thanks for having me, guys.